through something, and I thought, oh, I'm gonna put it into high gear and get around them quick.
Yeah.
And then they started going, so I stopped, and then they go, oh, no, you go. And I said, honestly, here, it takes you just as long to get out as me, because, you know, they don't really look for your card that much. Well, then they went, and then I went, and we were walking outside, and right when we got out in the outside, I said, what? Isn't it summer yet? And they started laughing, and they said, she goes, well, I'm from Chicago, and he goes, I'm from Missouri. And I said, oh, well, what brings you here? And they said, well, we moved here for jobs. And I'm like, oh, you're gonna be looking for a house soon? Well, yeah, we're thinking about it. Had a quick conversation, gave them a business card, got their names.
That's awesome.
So you don't have to always cold call.
No,
you could just try to budge in front of somebody at Costco and then make a joke out of it.
Right. Well, it's all about having the conversations and not being afraid to ask.
Oh yeah, and they really were really sweet. I think we must have visited for about 5 minutes in the parking lot.
Awesome.
So
very good. Yeah, but it's weather like today. Don't mind hanging around outside.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. The breeze this morning, I was like, that feels like a warm breeze. What's going on? It'll be short-lived though. I've already looked at the forecast. Tomorrow will be nice, and it's going to drop off again, but then it'll get warm again.
That time of year.
So good morning, everybody. Today we are talking about getting your listing sold. So we're going to dive into that content. But before that, I want to know how is the daily 10-4 going? Susan just shared with us that she had a buyer get an accepted offer on her property last night, which is great news. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Anybody else having good any good news stories from any appointments and stuff? Cindy, I know you were working with some folks.
Yeah.
Still out doing showings and
yeah, open tomorrow.
Okay.
10 in the morning, and then going out of town, coming back, and doing showings Sunday afternoon.
Awesome. With those same buyers.
The same buyers, and then that listing appointment hopefully on Monday. That worked out.
Awesome. Keep it up. Keep it up. Keep it up. Is that out of town travel to go see the little granddaughter you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, I have 4, so I have 2 in the cities and 2 in La Crosse.
Okay.
Melanie and I are looking at a listing actually in La Crescent.
Okay.
So if that works out, then I can see the La Crosse kids.
Yeah, well, that's perfect. You're kind of smack dab in the middle. So awesome.
Yeah.
You could use that as pressure. Say, if you sign this, I would have time to go see the grant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my
Anything else? Any obstacles, frustrations when it comes to the daily 10-4? Are we doing the daily 10-4? Okay. Page 5, today's expectations. Discover the techniques for and advantages of staging a listing to get sold. Review the elements of a marketing plan. Learn the essentials of great service to sellers. Study strategies and tips for great communication. For great communication and problem solving. So let's turn to page 11. So far, we've worked hard to find business and get the appointment. Once you've landed the appointment, we've demonstrated to the seller our value through our, what do we send ahead of time? What's that called?
The pre-listing.
Pre-listing package, and then we go to the appointment, and at the appointment, the goal is to what?
Get them to sign the listing.
Absolutely. Go through the CMA, settle on that price that's realistic, and get them to go ahead and sign on.
I did print off that pre-listing packet and send it off to that.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let us know what kind of feedback you get about it, if anything at all.
So what if you have somebody that has a house that doesn't have any comps on it?
What do you mean doesn't have any comps?
Well, it's out in Byron. It's a 4-acre hobby farm, and I went in to do a CMA yesterday, and I couldn't find any.
Did you search just in Byron?
I searched, I think, in Byron and Rochester.
You might have to keep expanding that radius. Yeah, it's more of a unique one. Is it in the city on 4 acres, or is it further out rural?
Nearby Oxbow, so it's.
Okay. Just expand your search. Look at properties anywhere from 2 to 6 or 8 acres, and then just comb through.
But I really want to have your farm out by Rockdale. If you go to Rockdale, you might get one.
We had a similar conversation earlier, Susan, right?
We did, and that was very helpful. Thank you.
So it's time to act on what we've promised in our listing presentation. Oftentimes, that's a little bit of the disconnect that occurs with agents and their clients, is they make all these phenomenal promises during the listing presentation. They get the listing, and then there's no follow through on some of those promises. Yeah, we're gonna put your property here, we're gonna market it here, and this, that, and the other, and then sometimes it doesn't come to fruition. Get the listing sold by attracting buyers to the listing. Do that job well, and not only will you attract buyers to the listing, but you'll probably pick up more buyer clients as well, right, through open houses and other things. Meet your seller's needs in a focused and a communicative way. This will build your reputation as a top listing agent, generate repeat business and referrals from the seller that may create more paydays ahead. So on Wednesday, we talked about one of the biggest things or one of the biggest complaints that people have regarding their agent is what?
Communication.
Communication or lack thereof. It's never, oh, they communicated too much, right? It's always a lack of communication. So that's why we're hitting that home right here. When you take that listing, it's important that you have constant communication with your client. What do you call as my recommended minimum kind of touch point communication-wise with sellers?
Once a week.
About once a week. We do it on Fridays. We do it right on Friday. And if there's an open house or something over the weekend, or there's some showing, we might send them an email with the feedback on Monday, but we're really gonna wait for Friday to have that phone conversation, unless we need to call earlier for some reason. But there's just a chance to touch base a little bit, let them know what's going on. Hey, do we need to talk about any price reductions before this weekend? Things of that nature. Okay, your service to sellers begins the moment they sign a listing agreement with you. You are now their advocate, their agent, and you have fiduciary obligation. Fiduciary, a person who is legally or ethically entrusted to manage money or property between two or more parties. Being the seller's fiduciary means servicing and marketing their home break those three down and go through them in detail. Before we get into to some of that, what's important when you go on the listing appointment is, you sometimes don't want to be too presumptuous, right, and offend people or turn them off. You definitely need to go in there with some confidence. We talked about some soft close and asking for the business, right? But at the same time, what I would have with me in my vehicle is a lockbox. I'd probably have some sort of step-in sign. And if they sign the listing before I leave, I'm gonna say, great, can I get an extra key for it? I'm gonna put it in a lockbox, I'm gonna put the lockbox up, and depending upon their timeline, how quickly they're wanting to get it listed, I'll say, can I go ahead and put a sign in the air? Or, here's the deal, I brought a sign, can we put it in your garage? And then when it goes live, I'll call you, would you mind putting it out in front for me? Save yourself a little time, save yourself a trip, right? Because the moment it goes live, what do you think the sellers are gonna expect?
A sign.
They're gonna want a sign in the yard, right? Because if you order a sign to be installed, how long does it take?
I don't know.
3 to 4 days usually, right? And they get impatient, man. They want to sign out there immediately. So you can't just think, okay, it'll be there in 3 to 4 days. Get a step in, put it out there. The other sign comes in, then you can remove the step in at that point. Page 13, staging the property. Think about buying a car. When you look online or see a car on a lot for sale, what attracts you the most? It looks beautiful, it's shiny, it's clean, it shows very well, at least online on the pictures, right? It's the same with houses, especially when it's competitive. Most homeowners, good morning, how are you? Most homeowners know it's important to keep a clean home, etc., that shows well during showings. But oftentimes, sometimes as the agent, we find it hard to have the conversation that says, hey, I would probably recommend you make a couple changes to your property, right? Has anybody been through a home that they went through on a showing with buyers, and you're kind of like, ooh, they probably could have done a better job getting this thing ready to show, right? You don't want your listing, you don't want your sellers to have that kind of perception when buyers walk through their property, right? We want it to show the best that it possibly can. And that means on the listing appointment, you've got to walk through, point things up, and really educate them about, here are the suggestions I make before showings even begin. And then walk them through all the things that you suggest based on walking through the home. Obviously, having the home clean and organized. If you have pets, get them out of there. You shouldn't be there for showings. If you can leave some lights on for people by the time they get there, that might be a helpful thing. It really kind of helps set the stage for it. When it comes to staging the property, very rarely have I had to have the stager come out to stage it, because most homes are lifted, right? They've already got the stuff. If anything, what a stager might need to do is come in and have a conversation with somebody and say, hey, we don't necessarily need to bring in additional furniture. We might just need to declutter and rearrange a little bit. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Way less expensive. Oftentimes they can do it themselves. You just walk from room to room and say, hey, I would move this chair out of here. I'd reorganize this. I'd pull this stuff out. You want to, what we call it, sanitize or neutralize the home, meaning all the personal pictures and stuff. You probably want those to go. Hide them somewhere, pack them away. And why do I say that?
Because you want your buyers that are the buyers coming in to visualize themselves living in that home
Absolutely.
and not see everybody else's family.
That's absolutely right. You want them to begin envisioning themselves in the home and not be asking questions about the family that already kind of currently lives there, right? You want to declutter as much as possible, and a lot of times what you can do is you can take that stuff and you don't necessarily have to go put it in a storage locker. You can just start kind of piling it up in the garage. Pick a portion of the garage, pile it up there, make it nice, neat, organized, because people expect that, right? I would much rather have you move that stuff out there, box up, and place it in the garage so the home shows better. And yeah, I get it. When they look at the garage, it's going to have a few boxes in it, but that's okay. People can envision or still appreciate the size of the garage even with those boxes. Goals of staging: present the best face of the home, maximize the spaciousness of the home, and allow visiting buyers to envision themselves in the home instead of seeing the sellers at every turn. When you're walking through that property and you're giving them advice and telling them to tweak things, keep in mind you want every room to appear as big as it possibly can, right? And a lot of times it has to, more is less, or excuse me, less is more. Pull out this, we don't need this, move this into this room, or just start compiling it, or get it out of here altogether, right? We want this to feel as big as possible. Will staging bring in higher offers? What are your thoughts? Without looking at your book.
They could, but I mean, it depends. Yeah, it depends on the house
I'll tell you this
and
much.
the condition of the rest of it.
I wouldn't feel comfortable promising somebody that, hey, if we stage this, we're going to get more money for your home. Yeah, I'd say it might sell faster or might get us a couple of offers, which could potentially help your home sell for more. But I would never kind of make the blanket statement that, hey, if we stage this, we're going to get more for your home. Because I don't know if that would be a reality. But I think it could increase the chances of you getting a little bit more for your property if we stage it, right? Because is staging free? No, not if you hire a stager, they bring in furniture. That's going to cost you. Sometimes it's a monthly expense. Sometimes it's a flat fee. Who pays that?
Me.
It depends. Some agents do, and some agents say, hey, it's it's going to cost you $400 to stage it, and they make it a seller expense. It doesn't have to be you as the agent that puts the bill for you. 32% of realtors report a 1 to 5% increase in offers when there's staging involved. 16% report a 6 to 10 increase, and 3% report an 11 to 15% increase. Now, some of that's kind of their opinion and how things shook out ultimately, but I wouldn't focus too much on these statistics. But what I will say is this: if you think a home would benefit from a little bit of staging, my approach to it would be this: let's put it on the market. Let's say it's a vacant home, right? There's nothing in there. Let's put it on the market, price it appropriately, still have it show as best we can. Also, you can virtually stage the pictures too. If the feedback comes in and it's not good, then at that point we might consider pulling the trigger and doing some staging, right? But I would probably test the waters first in this market, because Lord knows if it's a good property, it's priced right, that sucker's probably going to sell. We probably really didn't need to stage it. Does that make sense? According to NAR, the median cost spent on staging a home is $675. It's usually spent in the living room, just to kind of fill it, put some, and sometimes too, yeah, the other time staging can be beneficial is when it's a space that you're not quite sure what you would use it for. It's like, okay, how would this space be utilized, or how could we potentially make it functional? Well, sometimes it is helpful to stage a room like that because it lets buyers realize, oh, okay, I see how this room can be utilized or what it could be suited for. The importance of staging on page 15. Although you discussed staging in your listing consultation, when it comes time to actually do it, some sellers may show reluctance and raise objections. Stress how the home's appearance helps to achieve a quicker sale and a higher price. How would you handle the following objections? If someone said, well, I just don't see why this is so important. I don't see why staging is important. What kind of response would you have to that?
You want to show the home at its best.
Absolutely, right. If we want to sell faster for more money than other homes, then we need to stand out in terms of condition, helping them understand, hey, if we've got a few other homes or buyers are walking through and all things considered equal, they're relatively the same and similar to the price. If we really want yours to stand out, staging can help achieve that. again, you know, you have to always keep in mind what kind of market. If we were in a market that we were in a few years ago, where it was a buyer's market, I'd be talking about staging all the time. We need to stage this thing. We need to make it competitive. We really need to get some money spent in and to really show it off. In this kind of a market, you're probably not going to have to go spend a ton on staging right away. Do we really need to make this repair? Now, this one is a little bit more relevant, right? If you can walk through a home as a buyer and you can see something is obviously in a little bit disrepair in a normal residential property, not a foreclosure or something, what do you think buyers are going to think if they can walk through and see something a little goofy or in disrepair?
Why wasn't it fixed?
Yeah, you might immediately turn somebody off and say, no, no thanks. Are there alarmists out there?
Well, and they're gonna, even if it's something kind of trivial that could have been fixed easily.
Absolutely.
If the owner didn't fix that, what else is wrong
Right.
with
Well,
the
the
home?
worst would be if it's purely cosmetic, but because you didn't fix it or address it, you know, now their imagination starts to run
Yeah.
wild, right? Like think of a windowsill. This time of year with the temperatures changing as much as they do, you know, you get a little bit of ice buildup. It melts, sits on the sill. I have a little bit of a water stain or
Well,
a water mark.
if they're vinyl, they get that little mildew on them, but that's normal. And if people would just wipe that off, because if people see that, sometimes they think, oh, this house has mold.
Exactly. So if they see water marks there or something like that, they're going to think to themselves, oh, no, we're passing on this one. No, thanks. Right. When you can kind of coach them to do, you know, let's clean it. Let's fix this. Let's adjust this cosmetic issue so that we just don't have people overthinking things. Vaulted ceilings, what almost always happens with vaulted ceilings.
They get the nice little crack going right down the
Yeah,
center.
you get a nice crack that just comes right down. It's cosmetic. It's from the home settling, right? Now, if you're a first-time home buyer, you walk into a home and you see a big crack coming from the ceiling, what are you going to think?
There's a structure.
We need to evacuate, right? This thing can fall on us any minute, right? You know, they don't understand. No, it's just a minor settling crack. It's purely cosmetic. It's probably been replaced or it's probably been patched, you know, once or twice over the course of them living here. So just say, hey, let's fix that before we even go out on showings, right? It has to be covered in the disclosures, obviously, but why even leave it there as a red flag potentially? So the other place you want to go to and help people mitigate some potential obstacles is the utility room. Do you know if you just go down and clean your utility room, all of your utilities will look practically brand new, right? It's when you don't go down and touch your furnace for 15 years or your water heater or whatever, it starts building up rust and a bunch of other kind of goofy, weird stuff. Just go down and clean it. Clean off all that dust and stuff, it'll look brand new, right? No issues on showings when it comes to your utilities. Same when the inspector comes through, right? Regarding something in need of repair, we can sell it just the way it is, but it's likely going to take longer and we probably won't get as much for the home. My recommendation would be to have it repaired so we can get you the best price possible in the shortest amount of time. Why can't we sell the house as is? As an agent, anytime a home is listed for sale as is, what is your immediate thought?
There's something wrong with
They
it.
want to know.
Absolutely. What's going on here? I'm immediately suspicious. Immediately suspicious. And if I'm working with buyers and I see a home listed as is, unless it's a foreclosure or distressed property or something like that, I'm already thinking to myself, okay, we're definitely not going at full price. Or it should be priced appropriately if it's marked as is. When you throw as is on there, you're decreasing the value of the property a little bit because buyers, they're going to have to be taking on a risk, right? Now, in this kind of market, who knows? You might be able to get away with it.
Or they're saying, you know, you can have your inspection, but we don't care what you come back with. We're not gonna, don't ask us to fix
Yeah,
anything. It's as
potentially.
is.
Doesn't mean you can't ask them, but that's what they're kind of saying. Well, when you buy it as is, that also means that once you close, what? The important portion of the as is addendum means once we close, there's no coming back to us if you have issues. You bought it as is. Versus if you buy it the regular way, what happens after closing if there's a potential issue?
You can do arbitration.
Yeah, you might be able to work through it, depending upon what you find out, what you can prove, and all that fun stuff. But when you buy it as is, as the buyer, you're essentially kind of waiving the ability to come back and come after people for issues with the house afterward. Right? It's kind of a big deal. That's why the banks always make you buy it as is. Okay, page 16, marketing the listing. Putting your listing on the buyer's radar. There's a 14-step marketing plan. You can find it in eEdge. You present it to your seller in the listing consultation. It's designed to produce maximum exposure quickly and allow you to capture as many buyers as possible. When I'm speaking with sellers, I'm always using that phrase, maximize the exposure. Maximize the exposure, right? Because really, when you think about it, what is the way that you can get your sellers the most amount of money for their property?
By maximizing the exposure.
By getting what?
Most amount of people see.
By getting a lot of people there, right? And how do you get a lot of people there, or how do you get multiple offers on the home? By exposing it to as many people as you possibly can,
Advertising.
by maximizing the exposure, right? So if we can get it out in front of as many people as possible, we greatly increase the chances of people coming through the property, which greatly increases the chances of maybe more than just one offer coming in, which we know will drive the price up due to competition, right? And sometimes that's part of your pricing strategy. You know, maybe we go right in at market value or slightly below because we want to anticipate multiple offers, which we know will drive the price up. Price the home competitively with the current market and price trends. So when you're conversing with clients and you're talking about that CMA and the price, they're like, hey, this is where I think you should be. Oftentimes, if and when they hem and haw about the price a little bit, when you explain to them, one of the reasons why we price it that way is to entice that competition and potentially drive the price up. All of a sudden, you see them do this. Oh, well, that kind of makes some sense to me. Now I understand that reasoning. Now we're a little bit more comfortable with that price. Advise sellers on how to attract buyers by showing their home in the best possible light. Place a for sale sign with property flyers easily accessible to drive-by buyers. Property flyers by the for sale sign has kind of died out. It's kind of gone by the wayside. I mean, feel free to do it if you'd want, but I can't remember the last time I've seen anybody hop out of a flyer or hop out of the car and grab a flyer for a property. Because you just go online. Nowadays, if you're outside the property, you would just open your app and you've got all the information. Now that I think about it, it's kind of fun. Like, I think back when I was a kid, we should do that all the time. My mom would we drive, she's like, hey, go grab that flyer. Like, okay, right? This doesn't happen anymore. Respond to all buyer inquiries immediately. I know that sounds self-explanatory and very stupid, but it's critical. Number one, it's your job, because as the fiduciary to the seller, if anybody inquires on that property, it's your job to reach back out to them to see if they want to buy it or have any interest. And number two, selfishly what?
You don't get paid until you sell it, so you want to bring in as many buyers as
Well,
possible.
if somebody calls and has a question about the house, what? They can become your client.
Yeah.
Right? That's huge. Okay, so you want to respond immediately, because here's the deal. In 2018, I'm guilty of this too. We talked about this earlier. If I call the first person, they don't answer, what am I going to do? Well, I'm just going right down the list to the next person, right? So either you get it right away or you respond immediately to mitigate them going to, get to somebody else first, right? Because that's a chance for you to convert that person into a piece of business. Optimize the home's internet presence by posting your property in KWLS. So when you post it to MLS, a lot of times it automatically pull to KWLS as well. KWLS is an awesome system that Keller Williams has. It pushes you out to even more websites than just the MLS. And you can brand your photos in KWLS. So when it gets syndicated or pushed out to all the other websites, it's actually your branded pictures that are going out. Oh, your branded pictures were sold up on Zillow. That's huge. Create flyers. That would be great for open houses. Distribute just listed notices to neighbors, encouraging them to tell family and friends about the home. That's an easy one. I love it. It's dual purpose. You're marketing the property and you're marketing yourself for new business, right? Target your marketing to attract real estate agents who specialize in selling homes in this neighborhood. Right now, if you've got an up-and-coming listing about to hit the market next Monday, you think if you email blast it about every agent here in Rochester, you might get a few people asking you about it? Absolutely. Inventory is so tight. You'll have people chomping at the bit to get in there on day one, which is exactly what you want. You want that competitive feel. You want them to move quickly. You want very, very good, attractive offers, right? You can do 11 talks about a broker open. This is kind of dying out a little bit, but what you could do anytime you take a new listing is you could host a broker open where you invite all the agents from all the companies to come through to check it out during the day. Sometimes you provide refreshments, that's up to you. And you can also ask them for feedback and price opinions so that you can take that back to your sellers and let them know, hey, I had a lot of realtors here in town take a look at the property. Just so you know, some of the initial feedback is we might be priced a little bit on the high side, right? Make everybody else the bad guy. And then use that to have a conversation if you need to about making an adjustment to price. Create an open house schedule. Target active buyers and investors in your database. So number 13 is huge. We talk about, sending out just listed to the neighborhood. Send out just listed to your database, right? Just a quick, pretty email, picture, flyer. Just send it out. Hey, just want to let you know, new listing, blah, 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 blah. If you or anybody you know might be interested, let us know. We'd love to get them inside. Or we've got an open house scheduled this weekend. Just tell them to come on by. Right? Now, let's have a conversation about that. The people in your database, the people that you know and all that, do you think, how many of them are probably actively looking or maybe to buy that house? Probably zero. Probably zero, right? What's the real purpose of my email to them?
Pass it on to somebody they know.
Potentially, and also really just to remind them I'm in real estate. That's all. Hey, check out this new house. People, if you post a flyer of the house and there's a link to click on it, number one, it's going to take them to my website, which I love. And what do you think people are going to do? There's going to be a good portion of people that do what? They're going to click on it. They're going to want to look at the pictures of the house because they're nosy. Right? Or because it's enjoyable. People love looking at homes, right? They're going to click on it. They're going to take a look at it, which is great. Drives traffic to your website, gets engagement from them. And oh, by the way, especially if those pictures are branded, you're just constantly, subtly, subconsciously reminding them that you're in real estate, right? That's the whole purpose of it, right? If somebody pings off of this, great. Really, I just wanted you to know I took a new listing, and then I'm doing it. And if you need to sell a house, call me. Provide the seller with weekly updates detailing your marketing efforts, et cetera, et cetera. Feedback is crucial. Let them know what's going on or what's not going on to kind of help them make some decisions moving forward. Otherwise, because you and I know that, hey, when I take a listing, there's stuff that we're doing behind the scenes in the background. There's a lot going on, but unless we're communicating that to our clients, what do they think is going on?
Nothing.
I don't know exactly.
Just like every other realtor, you put a sign in my yard, I
Yeah.
signed on the dotted line, and you're gone. I mean,
I
there's a
don't know.
lot of
I don't
people
know
that
if you're doing
think
it all
that way.
day. Yeah, I don't know if you're golfing all day or what, but I mean, come on. No, there's a bunch of other stuff we're doing behind the scenes when it comes to working the listing and working on their behalf. Here's what else I'd say too. If you want to step up your game as a listing agent, anytime an agent shows your home, instead of just relying on the automatic email for feedback or whatever, what could you do?
Call
Give them
them.
a call. Absolutely, give them a call. Hey, Cindy, this is Zach over at Keller Williams. Wanted to thank you for taking a peek at the property out on whatever. Hey, what'd your clients think?
Oh, they loved it.
Okay, awesome. Sounds good. By the way, what did you think? What were your thoughts on price and all that?
I thought it was nice. I just noticed there were some details and
Okay.
the cleaning piece of it that could have been a little
Okay,
more light to it.
sounds good. I appreciate that feedback. I really do. Let me ask you this. Did you get a sense that your folks are maybe interested in potentially going to make an offer?
So if we can just pause for a moment.
Yeah.
This is going through my mind because my people are interested in a vacant townhome.
Uh-huh.
And they're my clients, so I don't want to really give it up
Oh, yeah.
in
Oh, yeah.
case they come in, don't you, as the agent, want to
Yeah.
be a little softer on this?
So I'll talk about that after we're done role playing here. But I'm trying to get to a certain question I want to ask you.
Yeah, I think they are down the road, probably.
Okay. So maybe him and Han a little bit, they're not quite certain yet. So then I would say, okay, Cindy, well, here's the deal. Feel free to throw something our way. If they like the home, put something together, send it our way, and we'll start a conversation, see what it leads to. And if there's any objections or obstacles to them making an offer, just have that reflected in your offer. We'd love to entertain it and take a look at it.
Okay, that sounds good.
So what I'm doing as an agent is I am actively trying to entice her people to make an offer, right? Versus just getting it online and looking at the feedback and just saying, hey, how was it showing? Good, okay, thanks, see ya. No, hey, what would it take for you guys to make an offer? Well, we don't know about this. Great, just make an offer and have that reflected in there. That's too easy. We'll consider it. I'm not saying we're going to accept it. You might do all that work and come back and tell you, Cindy, we're not even anywhere close, right? But that's working for my people, trying to get some offers coming in. Okay, now let's say that I'm that agent and you call me. You're asking me some questions, right? Your instinct was right. You don't want to reveal, oh my gosh, my people love it. They just can't wait to make an offer on this property. We're probably going to pay you 10 grand more. Right now, you don't want to do that. You want to play it coy. But usually it's the other way around. When I'm representing buyers, what I do, if I know they have interest, is I'll call the listing agent immediately. Because number one, I want to see, is this thing still available or are there any other offers on it, right? So I'll call you and say, hey, Cindy, this is Zach, Keller Williams, just went through the home. My clients have some interest. That's all I say. My clients have some interest. Just wondering if the home's still available, if you had any other offers on it. Nope, no offers yet. Okay, awesome. Is there anything that the sellers are looking for in particular when it comes to a close date? That's the next question I ask. And the reason I ask that question is, number one, I want to know what I'm putting together the PA. And I also know if you ask enough questions, most chatty Cathy realtors will tell you things they probably shouldn't tell you. I'm okay with it.
I did that yesterday and I found out just an awful lot.
They share with you a ton, right? So is there a particular close date they're looking for? Well, yeah, hey, if we can get it closed sometime in mid-March, that'd be great. They're moving out of state. He took a new job. Oh, okay, great, perfect. That's exactly what you guys need to sell, right? So if there's no other offers and you need to sell because you're moving out of state, we might come in a little bit differently with our initial offer price, right? Versus, hey, Zach, yep, we've got 2 other offers already in play. We're going to make our decision by noon tomorrow. Fantastic. I appreciate you letting me know. I'm going to have a conversation with Nam. I'm going to have a conversation with my people and say, hey, we need to go in as competitive as you feel comfortable with to have a good shot at this property, right? So just call that listing agent, ask them some questions. Very rarely are they going to ask you questions as a buyer's agent, but sometimes if they do, it's related to financing and pre-approval. You can answer some of those questions, but also don't be afraid to say, hey, here's their lender's contact information. Why don't you go ahead and give their lender a call and they can answer any questions you might have about the financing and whether or not they're strong buyers. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Make your lenders do some work. Make your lenders do some work. If it's competitive, I will tell my lender, do me a favor, call that listing agent and let them know how phenomenal these people are and that they're already pre-approved and all that jazz. If you have a good lender and they want to keep doing business with you, they will make that phone call to the listing agent. If it's between you and another offer, they're pretty similar, and your lender called and gave everybody a warm and fuzzy, which way do you think you might have just tipped the scale towards yours, right? I guarantee your lender would probably make that conversation or make that call, don't you think? Absolutely, it's a no-brainer. Yep.
Do you, when they call you and they say, hey, how many people have been looking at this place and all that kind of stuff? I mean, what do you have to tell them exactly how many showings it's had?
No.
Can you just say?
I am very tight-lipped when anybody calls me. If we've got multiple offers or something, I'll let them know, right? I have to share that information. But if they start asking other questions as to, because sometimes agents will call you and say, so why are they moving? I'm not going to tell you that. Are you nuts? So I'm going to purposely give a very vague, elusive answer. Oh, it's just a life change.
There's been activity on the house.
Yeah, there's been a decent amount of activity. It depends on what I want to tell them, right? I'm going to be honest and truthful with them, but I'll be purposely vague sometimes if I need to be, or if it's a question I just can't answer because we're not supposed to reveal motivation, right? So, hey, why are your sellers moving? Oh, just life change, or the home doesn't suit their needs anymore. Right? I know what you're doing. You're fishing for information. I'm not going to give it to you. Right. So when somebody calls and asks you the same questions, answer that way. So what's what's activity been like? You've got a decent amount of showings.
Just leave it there. You don't have to. Absolutely. And then they say, well, how many times has it been shown? You don't really have to answer that.
We've got a decent amount of showings. You gonna make an offer?
Yeah, that's right. I turn it around on them. Well, is your person pre-approved?
Right.
What's their time frame?
Right.
And I think every time they ask you a question, turn it around and see how good a buyer they have.
Right.
So I'm going to sit there and answer all these questions.
Right. So this isn't a grill session. Make an offer if you want to make an offer. Right. I'll have conversations with you and I'll answer questions about logistics, right? But they'll say, oh, what are they looking for a close date? I said, just pick something, let us know, and then once we get the offer, we'll give you some feedback as to whether or not that close date will work for us. Or sometimes I will, on the front end, try to manage the close date expectations a little bit because it's just going to make things easier. Hey, the sooner the close date you can give us, the better. Or hey, the further out the close date can be, that would actually be a benefit to your offer. Right? I'll have conversations like that with them, but I'm going to be purposely guarded about, well, hey, here's the deal. There was a death in the family, or here's one that people reveal sometimes that they really shouldn't ever. Well, they're going through a divorce. Why are you telling me that? Like, that's probably a little bit of breach of confidentiality right there, and you're revealing a little bit of the motivation, right? Anything that would potentially compromise the negotiating position of your clients is probably something you should remain tight-lipped about. Because as a buyer's agent, anytime there's no other offers on the table and I get information like that, I'm going to counsel my people to make offers with that information in mind because I have to. Because if I'm a buyer's agent, who's my fiduciary duty to? The buyer. If I have information or inklings as to motivation or what can help my people get a better deal on a property, we gotta have that conversation, hopefully try to negotiate it down, right? Brad, would like to say something.
Is there ever a time when you would say, no, there hasn't been any showings and there hasn't been any interest on this property?
I would just say, hey,
It's a good question, but
we're pretty new to the market, we haven't, it's been a little bit slow so far, but, I've gotten plenty of questions about the property, right? You just gotta, whatever answer you can give that basically says no, but makes it sound a little bit better than no.
yeah, you always want.
Yeah. And here's the agent, if they're good, they're gonna read between the lines and they're gonna know what you said, right? Okay, that's what I would say if I had no showings, right? So it is what it is. Just be honest with them. But you can be purposely vague or just say, hey, you know what? If somebody was like to ask me very specific, poignant questions, I say, hey, you know what?
What are you trying to get to?
I can't really answer that question. If you want to throw an offer our way, send it to me. I promise I'll get it in front of the sellers and we'll counter you back or hopefully come to terms with something that's doable. Okay. Awesome. Okay, let's have a conversation on page 17 about homes that we've seen. And I want to say one of the things that we talk about or that we should talk about in addition to marketing the listing is photography. If you can take phenomenal pictures, awesome. If you can't take phenomenal pictures, you might want to consider hiring a photographer to do so. They might cost you somewhere between $100 and $150. It's going to save you time. You don't have to go out there and mess with it. They'll just send you the photos, and having great photos is going to easily set you apart online when people are looking at properties. You've all seen the houses that you're like, oh my gosh, after this, I can see somebody in the reflection of the mirror, or it's dark and dingy, or somebody's finger is like in the picture. And it's like, oh my gosh, these poor people hired this person that doesn't even know what they're doing or doesn't care enough to have decent pictures. I'm not saying that you have to hire somebody to take them. I'm just saying, if you're going to take them, do a good job taking some quality pictures, because that's the first place people are going to decide yes or no. Does this house meet the cut? It's based on the pictures they see online. Yes or no? Am I interested? Yes or no? Am I going to see it in person? Right? So your pictures are the key to getting them to actually come see it in person, which then entices them to make an offer. Right? So really think about that.
Just to add to that a little bit, make sure your pictures are not overly flattering.
Right.
You'll see like the wide fisheye lenses. This room's huge, and then you get there and you're like, this room is not huge, and it would have been fine had it been presented properly in the first place. But because you're going in, and you think, oh, they have a massive living room, and it's
It looks like this.
12 by 16, and it's like a fine living room, but like, hey, you get there, it's not.
Or the pictures digitally staged.
Yeah.
But like nothing's to scale. So like, oh wow, it's huge, and it gets there so small. Here's the deal. I'd rather have you show up and take a look at the house though. What you do has to be accurate. You can't, Photoshop pictures and make them so that they're not an accurate representation of the property. But you do want to show the home in the best light possible to try to entice people to get in there. And I've seen homes where, based on how the picture was taken, and when you go there in person, like the paint colors even seem drastically different on the walls, right? That's not a pleasant surprise for some people. So make sure you try to get it right in terms of the photos.
His question when I was leaving there is about making the place look huge. And what is the whole consensus about that?
You want to make your pictures show as best as they possibly can without being a misrepresentation of the actual property.
I think, yeah, and I just think you're getting people to walk in and be disappointed. That's what you're setting yourself up for. And yes, you'll get more people there.
Yeah, I was gonna.
But they will all be disappointed once they get
Like
there.
everything else, if you're branding that, if your name and face is on it.
Right.
And that's what people see.
Yes.
There's a good way
Let
to
me give
brand
you- let me
yourself
give you
and
an
a bad
example.
way.
Let me give you an example. Have you ever seen this happens with realtors a lot. You see their professional photo marketed, and then you see them in person, and you don't even recognize them.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want your house to have the same effect, right?
I
Unless
feel,
it's a pleasant surprise.
I feel strongly that people like realtors that have to have their picture taken, it should almost be like a driver's license. Maybe not every 2 to 3 years redone, but come
Every so
on,
often.
every 5 or 6, because we do change. We might not think so when we get ready in the morning and look at ourselves every day.
We get better looking with time.
Well, But we change with time.
Yeah, but you know what? That's one of the reasons why I have a logo. You won't find my picture on everything. My name will be there, but it's my logo. Because my logo is never gonna age, right? That duck's not gonna get any older. So I won't have to constantly rebuy signs or redo marketing because I've got, a few more wrinkles. Anyway, I just think it's kind of comical, but it's a good example of, it looks one way, but in reality it's another. You don't want the same kind of effect when it comes to your home when people go out on showings, to Ethan's point.
People use their phone to take pictures, or do they have?
Oh, yeah.
People use it whenever. I mean, smartphone cameras nowadays.
They're so good. Like I have a Google Pixel. This is like got a great camera on it. But when I've taken pictures in the past for countryside, I'd always bring in my good camera because I want it to be able to do a lot of extra editing. I think if people just even did their own, take a lot of them, and then when you bring it up on your computer screen, look through them and edit. But bathrooms are the hardest because if they're small, it is like, I've always found that it is like so hard. You got to get just the right angle so you're not any part of you in the picture. Bathrooms are not easy, but I think a lot of them I see when I look through, it's like they just throw them, they take all their pictures and they don't even look at them. They just go straight to MLS. And if they would just preview them, they
You want to be smart
throw out a
about.
bunch.
You want to be smart about what order you put them in, and you want to be smart. Like sometimes with pictures, less is more. Right? I used that phrase earlier in the opposite direction, but with pictures, sometimes less is more. Do you need a picture of a half bath? No, right? You only get so many pictures. Flex actually gives you a decent amount of pictures you can post. But it used to be you only had maybe 12 or 16 pictures you could throw out. You really had to be selective. It's like, why are we putting in a picture of a half bath? Let's be a little bit more strategic. So the way I do it is I generally like to do one good exterior shot of the front of the home, maybe two to start off with, and then I'll immediately go to what people want to see. What are the things that they want to see pictures of most?
Kitchens and
Kitchen.
master bath or master
Kitchen,
bedroom,
master bath,
living
room, maybe
Is there
the
a
master
fireplace?
bedroom, and then from there, whatever else you think it looks nice, right? And then I typically end it with one or two exterior pictures, right? I want the great curb appeal photo, then I want to hit you with the beautiful kitchen, then I want to hit you with all the other beautiful stuff, and I want to show you the rest of the house is actually nice too, because I know for a fact most people, they might only click through the first 2 or 3 pictures. I need to capture their interest right there to get them to start to click through the rest of them. And then I want to end it by taking you back outside and showing you, the yard if it's beautiful or gorgeous or whatever, right? That's my strategy to it. And I want it to kind of flow through the home, right? But hitting all the great highlights up front to get you more and more excited about the property. And if it doesn't make sense, I'm not gonna include a picture of it. Right? If I don't like the picture, I'll err on the side of not including it versus including it.
Do you have like a preference of a certain amount of pictures? Because
Maximum, the most I can post it.
the most you can post.
The most I can post if they're all good pictures.
Okay.
Right, if I'm posting it just to post it because I have another one, well then no. But if what do you guys get, 24 now?
26.
26, that's an insane amount of pictures. Right?
Mhm.
So you might not even get to all 26, right? It depends, but if you've got a good one, use it. So let's talk about a little bit about the homes that you guys have been out and you've seen. Talk to me a little bit about pricing. How do you feel homes are in terms of where they're being priced right now out of the market based on the showings and the previews that you're doing? Are people pricing them pretty good? Are they out of whack a little bit?
I think mine have been pretty good, but the ones that I've gone through, they're selling so fast. Like they go on the market and they're gone in a day. Or some of the agents are doing, we're going to take all the offers and present it at noon on Saturday or noon at Sunday. So they're showing it, doing a big open house on Saturday and then presenting offers on Sunday. So when you look at, your range without doing a cost market analysis for ones when you're taking buyers, I just typically look at the tax information and where that market range is and, a little information. I'd say mine have all been that I've gone on have been in that median range, but I think they've all come in when they've sold higher than what they're asking.
So generally what you're saying is on the homes that you're seeing on the market right now that you've been going through with buyers and such, they tend to be priced pretty in line with
Right,
where
but
they
a
should be.
lot of them, when you look at the inside, they're the ones that we've gone on, people aren't doing a whole lot to them because they don't have to right now. I mean, some of them have been really dirty. They haven't gone through even with fresh paint. Some of them, you know, you
You're not
look
having
and
to remodel it or anything crazy.
they're not,
Yeah.
but the buyer coming in is probably gonna have some extra costs when they come in because some of them have been pretty shabby.
So, Brad, I saw you nodding a little bit when you said, yeah, they all seem to be, you know, on the most part priced, you know, pretty in line with the market. Anybody else?
I've been seeing some wacky stuff, like, so we'll see what this does.
Yeah, so the opposite is, there are some that are coming on a little bit high. Right? Because some people hear seller's market and they think, okay, great, let's go to town. Let's just list it way higher than it should be. I think what we're seeing, for the most part is homes are coming in pretty much, or being listed pretty much where they need to be or should be. And then on the flip side, the other, you know, chunk of them are coming on slightly higher than they should, but they're probably no more than 1 or 2 price reductions away from being where they actually should be. And then every so often you have the one-offs that are just, you know, way overpriced because they have no idea what they're doing, or realtor bought the listing, or they're just like, hey, this market's crazy, let's throw it off this price and see what we can get, right? But on average, and it's, you have to explain this to your buyers, most homes are going on for what they're gonna get, if not a little bit less than what they're ultimately gonna get based on how competitive it is. Signage, what have you seen regarding signage? Have you ever gone on a showing and there's no sign in front of the house? It drives me nuts. That's usually how I try to find the house. I get close enough and I just start looking for the sign. But in this kind of market, you're going on showings, how long have the homes usually been on the market?
Couple days.
Yeah, they might not have a sign yet, right? Because it's that new to the market, okay? So do yourself a favor, like we talked about earlier, get that step in, have at least 1 or 2 in your arsenal that you can throw into that property immediately. Because, oh, by the way, that's also, it's a mini advertisement for you, right? It's not just about letting people know that home is sold. It's about letting people know that you sell homes in that neighborhood. So get that signage out there immediately. Are you finding that most people are doing an actual post sign, at least here in Rochester? Are there any, have you seen any directionals further out from an actual listing that kind of direct people? Not really?
Not really,
really.
not in town.
Yeah.
Sometimes you see it if it's a country property.
Rural property. But sometimes this time of year, people forgo it because they know the minute I put in directionals, the
Snow
plow's gonna wipe it out anyway. Okay. Staging. How has the staging of homes been? I'm not asking you if you can tell if it's been professionally staged or not. I'm just asking in general, what kind of condition when it comes to the staging of a property have you been seeing out on showings? You kind of talked about it earlier. Sometimes they're not in the best condition.
I think it's a pretty 50-50 mix right now. Like, there's people who are kind of cognizant and try to make their house look nicer, and will squirrel stuff away in the garage, and will do things. And then there's the people who are like, well, you know, hot market, so whatever. Here you go. I'm not picking up my kids' toys. Or,
Well, a lot of it has to do with how much their agent coaches them. A lot of it has to do directly with that. Yes, sir.
How do you approach, like you said, kids' toys? The few open houses I've done, 2 have been completely vacant. One was immaculate. You could have eaten out there for it. And everything had a spot.
Mhm.
And there was a fragrance in the house that really was attractive. The other one was a smaller house. It was very beautiful. You know, built in the early 1900s. But there was one room that looked like the circus blew up in there. And then there was a bunch of toys. They were neatly placed. But it was on a couple tables in the living room, and as people would walk through, they'd knock little figurines over.
Right.
How would you approach that?
I would try to, in the very first meeting with them, set the expectations and have a conversation regarding showings and the condition the house needs to be in. And here's what you find. Some agents are afraid to have that conversation because they don't want to offend anybody or make anybody angry. And when you don't have that conversation, you end up doing them a huge disservice because then buyers walk through the kind of a house you just described. It doesn't show as well as it could because their agent didn't have the professional conversation with them to say, these are some things you want to do to your home prior to showings or open houses, which is declutter, clean, whatever, right? What I think is going on more than anything in the market is, in general, homes are showing very well. They're clean, they're organized, they're prepped. On occasion, you get the house that's a little grody, right? A little nasty. or they didn't quite, clean it or get it the way that it should for showings, either because they don't really care, they were super busy, it's life, right? Or their agent didn't really coach them to get it to show well. And when you're going through those houses with your clients, you can tell. They're ready to go, they're ready to leave. The minute they open the door, they're like, okay, no, this one doesn't do it for me, right? That first impression when somebody's coming through that property on a showing is crucial, it's vital. And if I had somebody that was being a little bit resistive or resistant to getting the home in great showing condition, that's the conversation I would have. Here's the deal, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. When people cross that threshold and walk into your property, that first impression is absolutely vital. And the only way that we can maximize having the greatest impression possible is having having the home in top-notch showing condition. Here's some recommendations I would give you to get your home in top-notch showing condition. So talk to me about pictures and pictures of homes you're seeing online. Good, the bad, and the ugly. I would say, I think most people are either doing professional photography or they know what they're doing and they're taking good pictures. Because people nowadays kind of know you need great pictures. But you can also tell when you have the do-it-yourselfers that really don't know. They're just buzzing through trying to get the pictures and get out of it, right? And even you as an agent, not even necessarily your buyers or a prospective consumer, what immediate thoughts do you have, or what impact do you have, or what's your perception of that property when you come across photos like that?
They don't care enough to take pictures.
It just seems junky. Like you don't even know what's happening in your head, but you're already kind of devaluing the property because it doesn't look very good, right? That's like if you took the same car, you went around the streets of Rochester, they got it all nasty, then took pictures of it, then you washed it, and then took pictures of it again, and you put them side by side. One of them would obviously be way more attractive to you than the other. You'd be willing to maybe pay a little bit more for the ones more attractive, right? It's the same thing with photos.
The other thing I'll say about that is have photos when the listing goes up. I get like emails from Zillow about pretty much everything that goes on the market. There are a shocking number of them that don't have any photos initially, and I'm sure the person thinks, well, I'll go back and add photos later. Well, guess what, man? That email blast, it's not going out again.
Right.
Like,
how much time do you guys get to put a picture of it?
2 pictures you have to have, right?
Yeah.
One.
First 3 days.
That's one of them.
Well, you have to have one right away.
Well, that's what we tell you to do. You need to have at least one right away for the listing, right? But how long? So that kind of covers your butt in that sense. But I think to Ethan's point, the quicker you get more of your pictures up, the more you're maximizing that initial opportunity of it first hitting the market, because that's when that's when you're going to get the most amount of buzz for the property. When it first hits that market, people are checking it out because it's brand new.
Yeah, because it's disappointing if they only have one even.
Right.
and sometimes they don't even have that.
Right. And you don't really want to go back. I mean, you're moving on to the next one.
Right.
When you're looking for clients,
Right.
and so are they.
Yeah. Or what happens is you list it on Friday, it's the one picture, and you don't get around to maybe adding more pictures until Monday or Tuesday. But what do you think a lot of people did over the weekend?
Looked at spot houses.
They were looking at homes, either online or out in person, right? So you want to maximize that opportunity to get all those pictures loaded as quickly as possible. Page 18, hold an effective open house. Part of your marketing strategy, one of your 14 steps is to show the property through an open house. Now, that's your choice, or it might be your client's choice, whether or not you have an open house. Some people don't want opens. Why?
They just don't want to have to get out of their house, and sometimes they don't want just a whole bunch of different people coming in. Neighbors, sometimes you get just nosy neighbors. I mean, they have lots of different reasons why they might not want to do that.
Two main reasons that I found: security and inconvenience. Hey, they're paranoid. I don't really want people walking around snooping in my house. Maybe, you know, get a kleptomaniac in here that's trying to snatch some stuff. Anybody a Breaking Bad fan? Watch that show? Remember what the sister-in-law would do? She would go to open houses and steal stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I was like, oh my
Marie.
gosh, I gotta pay more
Yeah,
attention to Marie.
I forgot about
I gotta
that.
pay more attention to that, right?
She got some good stuff.
She did. Or they don't want to have to go through the inconvenience. Think of a growing family. They've got 4 kids. You know, 2 of them are pretty tiny. They got a dog. You tell me to leave my house for 2 or 3 hours in the middle of the day on a weekend. That's like my worst nightmare, right? That's a huge inconvenience. So sometimes it just might not be their thing, right? But if they're open to it and you're open to it, it's really a good opportunity, especially that first weekend or two, to get some maximum exposure, get people to the property, really generate some excitement for the home, and for you to get in front of other potential prospective clients as well, right? The dirty secret in our industry is when we hold a house open, why are we really holding it open as an agent?
To get new clients.
To get the home sold is my official answer,
Right.
right? Because that is the intent. But the other really main appeal for us to be holding it open is to pick up more clients. If you're purposeful about it, right? Otherwise, you just got time to kill on the weekend and you like doing it. I don't know. If that's your thing, knock yourself out. Not my thing. If I'm going to go there, it's to hopefully pick up more clients, right? Hopefully get the home sold and also maybe pick up more clients. Open house benefit the seller by attracting buyers to the home. More visitors to the house, the faster it will sell. Buyers love open houses. I love it because a lot of agents. So here's the deal: if I've got some clients and they say, "Hey Zach, we want to go see this house this weekend," what do you think the first thing I do as their buyer's agent is?
You look to see if there's an open house,
I look to see if there's an open house that weekend. Debbie, why?
so they can go look at it without you.
So I can let them know, hey, great, that sounds like an awesome idea. That home's actually scheduled to be open Saturday from 1 to 3. Go knock yourself out. I'll go ahead and let the agent know to expect you. Why would I do that?
Your contract.
Because it saves me time.
Yes.
They're under contract, I've set expectations, it saves me time. And then I'll just say, hey, that's cool. If you like it, just do me a favor, give me a call back and let me know if you like it. We can schedule to go back out and take a look at it again, or I'll just go do a quick preview so I'm familiar with it, right? I forgot where I was going with that though. Oh, now I remember. The other benefit to your open house is if you've got other agents that are sending their clients through and they're interested and they just walked through an open house that had about 5 to 10 people in it, what's their takeaway?
It's a great house.
We better move
This is
fast.
gone.
We better move fast and put in a great offer, right? We want to have that level of competition, and you can achieve that through an open house, or you can use an open house as a little bit of a scare tactic, right? Let's say I've got to open. Let's say I go live on Friday. I've got to open scheduled 1 to 3 Sunday. I get an offer Friday night. They say, hey, here's our offer. I say, hey, that's awesome. Here's the deal. We're going to counter you back. You better hit us back at full price. Otherwise, we're going to hold it. But if you give us a good offer before the open, we'll accept it and cancel the open. You can use it as a tactic. So that's a scare tactic, right? You know what I mean? If you want to lock this, and oh, by the way, I'm more than happy to cancel the open house. That gives me my afternoon back if it's for the right offer for my sellers, right? So pays the premium to have it canceled. Otherwise, I'm going to hold it open and see how many offers we get. Open house benefits the agent. It's a benefit for the agent too. They offer a relatively safe, non-aggressive sales environment, provide opportunity for great face-to-face prospecting. The open house event and the time leading up to and after provides opportunity for you to build relationships, market your name to a geographic farm, secure neighborhood, mind share, etc. Right? All the marketing that can occur before and after is also an added benefit. Plus, you've got your page 19. Get the word out. Think of an open house build your database and position you as a neighborhood expert. If you're constantly doing open houses, in the same area or neighborhood, you're getting in front of the same people over and over again. They see your signs out on the street corner, 3-4 times a month. It doesn't take long for you to start becoming the name that they recognize in the area, right? The open house, one of the best benefits to the open house is you have free license to go put your signs everywhere. Right? I don't care if my open's 5 miles away. I'll put a sign there. No, I'm just kidding. But you can, like most people, put up the bare minimum amount of signs possible, and they're just all within the residential neighborhood, right? Double your signage. Put it at the most major busy intersections you possibly can. And if you really are getting creative about it, your open might be from 1 to 3, but you throw your signs out right away that morning. You put a rider on there that says 1 to 3, so if people drive by and it's not during the time of the open house, they know it's not open, and then pick them up later that day, or right after open, whatever you want. but give your signs some license to hang out there all day because it's got your name and number on it. Right? And if you do it often enough, people are going to see them out there. Wow, that guy's everywhere. That gal's everywhere. They must do a lot of business. Door knocking, we talked about that. It's the same thing. You can door knock the surrounding homes just to invite them to the open house, let them know it's for sale, all that fun stuff. Leverage the internet. You can post it. You can post your open house on the internet. You can post a property on the internet. Same with social media. That tip down there, ignore it. About Facebook and your personal profile. Yeah, you can utilize Twitter. I haven't had. Twitter isn't going to be probably as effective as something like Facebook would be in terms of marketing your open house. You can choose to utilize it if you want to. Community websites. If there's a neighborhood website or a neighborhood group or page or something like that, you can post it there. It's a great way to get some exposure for it. Oh, by the way, with the link to the listing on your website, right? Because that's ultimately where we'd like to have them go. Same with communicating it to your database. So let's take a break. It is 10:35. Let's pick back up at 11:45.
So under the social media ideas, what do you think about the engage when you use social media? Use contests and sweepstakes.
You can. I mean, I'd be lying to you if I told you I did that a lot.
Yeah.
I just mainly, interact with people. I try to use humor. I post a lot about my clients and whenever they have good news stories, that kind of stuff. Or the events that we're doing. That's the other thing I post about.
Like, let's say,
Put
I
that
don't
up
know,
on your
with
friends,
this,
dear.
like this.
What's that?
Put that up on your friends, dear.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Tom,
This
is-
Put it on the MySpace.
Well, do you want to save it first to your, I have to pretend that this is a list. Okay,
It's
so
funny,
this
I've been
is
listening to this
not,
podcast,
we're
which
not connected, right? Okay,
you and
So,
them said
I
a
would
lot
go
of the
to
same
mail.
things.
Oh, really?
Right.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
put it down, and then
What's
I'm
the
gonna mail it to myself
And
here
then
at KW.
you want tips for selling your
Okay.
podcast, dear,
Okay.
for more money.
And then,
Like the first half, when you're staging and smell, all that stuff,
Yeah.
it's like almost
Right.
verbatim what she was saying.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, it's really funny. So I was like,
it's not coming
"Oh,
through.
just listen to it.
I know.
I wish maybe they're cutting away with
Yeah,
people. Who knows?
5 minutes.
Well, hello there. How are
Yeah,
you?
I'm not sure.
How are you?
what to do.
Yeah, it's, could be sent to
Do
Cindy
you
Hughes.
refresh it? Or look in your, spam?
Yeah, refresh it. That helps me a lot because sometimes it doesn't just pop up until you refresh.
Look in your spam. Look in more labels.
And weird. Well, this is the kind of stuff that will drive me.
Me too, when it doesn't just work like you think it's supposed to.
Yeah.
But they can actually do something. So this is what, I mean, it depends upon obviously the price of your house, but so this is just a range.
Oh. So, we can't say this again, so this is the closing costs,
But now remember, closing also goes on price post and everything, so everybody's numbers are different. I'm just showing you a range. So I'm totally,
So you don't like it?
I did a lot of business for their new one. Last year, we had a lot of little mistakes where they fixed up like.
Okay.
So, yeah. Why do it? But I mean, why would you do this when you can do it? Because you don't want to see this is from the lenders ending now.
You said you used a pre-listing thing that came off the website.
yes, let me show you. So it's in here. Yeah, it's, back like here. So, and, I had Mel show me, and then I did, I'm always so concerned about wasting her time. So then I went to try to do it, and it took me a while.
I'll come back.
And it's like, I got to, why didn't I just
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Break it down. was under education. And then I think it was this, might take me to it. And then I think it was resources.
Susan, this is delicious, by the way. Thank you. What is this?
It's a homemade bread I made.
What kind is, what's in it?
It's peaches and cream.
Oh, that's good.
I had some heavy whipping cream, a big thing of it left.
And then,
Can I borrow this stapler?
yes. Tina was doing her
Texting me, so like.
Oh, my God, no worries at all.
Because normally I'm not a rude person,
Don't even think twice about it.
but I'm trying to take care of a few of these things this morning.
Did they have a search? And it was materials. And then go to the bottom and where it's at, because it's in Canada.
Okay.
Okay.
You gotta go back.
Back.
Gotta go back to the, be there 2:40. About 6:30.
You know, it's one of those.
And you worked this morning too?
Yeah.
What was that? 5 o'clock?
Yeah, it'd be there by,
So I don't know how it works.
Till 7.
oh, I was there till
And I know
about
it's supposed to be there, but I would-
10 minutes to 9.
You, the agents.
Yep.
So
Busy.
everything about me.
Yep.
Do your.
I just.
Another guy that I sold to, an
Actually, I'm trying to.
unusual last name, I'll think of it here. I'm sure you know him too.
So yeah, that's all you do. Okay, so we.
Remember that thing like that, I can never remember what, like, think of this name, and I can't do it.
Fire you sold?
Who is
Yeah.
JJ right there.
Yeah.
I think some of the ones with different last names.
Yeah, I was, I'll get this.
Because he works with all.
I know you know the guy.
Yeah.
He's been doing it forever.
Right, I would ask them, hey, what was this all?
It's a hot job.
Right, and you see if it's.
Yeah, he has a break.
But where
That's
it's.
what he wants to get. Or that's break, yeah.
Hey, this is something
Like,
I-
if I visit with you or something like that, he goes back.
Okay. I'll come
Well,
up.
that's why I'm asking you, because I don't want to just assume, I want to make sure
Wish I was better
that
at
we're knowledge sharing before I.
I couldn't remember for sure.
Yeah.
So,
I remember it.
okay, so you think by-
Yeah, yeah.
Stop
Not what it was.
I don't write it down.
Yeah, I was asking, what would this run?
If names, like, if you don't look like his name, you're supposed to be. I never remember.
You see somebody else that looks like that.
Yeah.
And they,
That route.
they tell you some other name.
And you're like, no, I'm not
He's got
remembering
everything.
that. That's
He's
funny.
got everything, I mean, it's just.
I was laughing once, you know him as Scott.
Yeah.
Then you're in a meeting or something, and then I call him William, it's just like,
Sometimes it has to come in.
Is William here?
That's
what does that mean?
And holidays in
Well,
February,
my real
and a
name
couple of
is
snow
like-
days thrown in, I just want to.
you know, and I just say William,
As
and
a
you went by
cushion.
Will.
They want 30, so I needed an extra 5.
Some of
Is that
them.
all? Yes. Did you know that was in there
Yeah,
before?
that's good. Maybe.
Give yourself the time.
I mean, the banks.
Oh,
They
gosh,
want,
yeah.
but they want 4.
Well, it is, but. Maybe he would. Nice to meet you.
So what's your background?
So yeah, pretty new to Kelly. Just got my license.
You, it's, no, not saying you have to make any changes to this. Okay,
So that's,
you don't have to have that, you don't have to have this.
Minnesota here,
That's fine. And then,
My picture's from-
is this your email address?
no.
Okay. Manzan's, New York?
That's what it was like you're doing.
It's the same on both sides.
Pictures to my
It's
email.
MAO, the sign's the same on both
No,
sides.
this is for the fire picture.
Oh, this is for your back, oh, never mind, you can realize.
It's-
This is
She
awesome.
said,
It's
you want
such a
to
nice
know
change.
email now?
And
I sent her this.
So you really don't, yeah, Jack.
Well, I don't think they
I
want
don't
it
know
there.
anyone. I don't really know.
Have you-
I don't have any friends.
You tried
Down there, don't you?
What do you
No,
do
that's
for your
it.
sphere?
Whatever they do.
I
Oh, that'd be
think
great.
so,
Did you,
I will.
Okay,
I like to get the email.
So that's why
I
I
can't
put it
remember
together.
how I did it. They're on my computer.
It worked really
Slow.
easy.
And it takes, does your, you
Yeah,
have an
it's
iPhone and
Karen,
you have it set up like me?
No Apple.
A lot of this stuff is non-applicable to
Right.
me.
You know, call
Phone,
people with
yes.
Yeah.
That would take me about half that time.
It
to
may-
call
it's
us
really
to
easy.
Oh.
When you do it, don't worry about it.
And so yeah, it's kind of a weird thing.
I don't
seen
know,
that,
But I'm
sure
trying to
you have
work
have it.
on my relationship with one or two
Oh, okay.
people, and then
I spoke to a lot of others.
So,
My seller emailed me some.
That came out. Will you forward that to me just in case? Since I'm not like trying to much remember like you
Because
guys
I
are.
usually always using this with my iPad, things for compression.
I'm not an avid, so I don't know, but
Yep.
that can go a lot.
Sure.
I do them on it, so I
I
want to make
think
sure it's
it
going right.
allows me like.
In case you don't work check rate on it.
One at a time.
I don't know, so yeah, sure about yourself.
Sitting
So I
there
wouldn't
with
hear about.
I don't see how that,
Okay.
I don't see how.
I know.
At the April. So
I know.
I'm not-
I can I can message.
Joy,
Just an Apple
or
expert.
do it now.
Instead of
And
figure
then
through.
I belong to Rochester. Connection, so I'm trying to build this. It's not like I have 1,000 names to call it.
All right, should we dive back in? Okay, page 21. Communicate with the sellers. Yes, we have to communicate with our sellers once we take the listing. It's crucial. Remember, you've told them it's all about the customer service that you provide them. You agreed to communicate in ways that work for the sellers, whether once a week, a day, by phone, email, text message, etc. Update them regularly. Err on the side of communicating rather than not communicating. From listing to closing, include the status of your marketing efforts, feedback from the from showings, offers on the table, steps moving forward, all that fun stuff. Be sure to block this time on your calendar. Even once an offer has been accepted, you still need to be calling them weekly and checking in with them, right? And sometimes people need to get prodded along to get in and to have their home emptied. And sometimes people don't realize that. They don't really sometimes understand if things were done a little bit differently when they bought 20 years ago. Nowadays, what's the expectation of a buyer on closing day? When they close and sign that paperwork, what do they expect? The key.
The key.
That the home is
Moving in.
empty and they can move right in. Is that how things used to happen?
Not always, because sometimes you might have the closing the same day, but buyer would take
The seller would maybe have another
a day or two to
move
get out, right?
or the weekend, right? So if the last time you bought or sold a home, that's what happened, that's probably kind of what your expectation is again. So unless we explain to our sellers, hey, here's the deal, or we're constantly calling them and saying, hey, just so you know, have you moved out of the house? Final walkthrough scheduled for this day and time. Just want to make you aware so that you can have most of the stuff out or whatever. Or hey, we're not going to have this, or this out. Great. Let me call the buyers and let them know, hey, when you go through your final walkthrough, you're still going to see some of these items in the home, but no, before closing, it will be removed, right? You're avoiding any potential headaches, right, by staying in communication with everybody. Even if you're calling just to say, hey, nothing has changed, call them. That's an okay phone call, right? Hey, Debbie, it's Zach, just checking in. I know we're a couple weeks out from closing. Really haven't had anything change. Just checking to see if there's anything that you need or if you have any questions about what to expect. Debbie's probably going to say no. Or she might say, actually, Zach, I was just thinking about utilities. What do we need to do? Oh, great. Here's what you should do, right? Some additional customer service and staying in contact with folks. Great communication is not just about agreement over what you communicated. It's equally about agreement about how and when you will communicate. There's no such thing as over communicating when it comes to providing outstanding service to your clients. And anytime there's good news to share, you call them and give them the news, right? You can email them, that's okay, but if you call and you give somebody that good news, it's even better. If it's bad news, what do you think you should do? Call them. Or send them an email and then call them right away, right afterwards. You can say, hey, I sent you an email. You can take a look at it, but I want to call you and let you know, unfortunately, appraisal came in undervalued. But here's what we're going to do, or here are our options, right? If you just call and give bad news and you don't have many recommendations or options or anything to say about how you can move forward, you're not going to be doing yourself any favors, right? Because if I end the conversation there, hey, Cindy, it's Zach, I got some bummer news. Appraisal didn't come back at value.
Now what? What should we do?
Well, I don't know. No, just kidding. Right? Because that's what they're going to ask, right? She's going to, I'm like, or she won't ask at all. Or she's just going to blow up. So here's the deal, Cindy. Appraisal came back undervalued. Here's the deal. I've already started doing this, and this. We're challenging the appraisal. I'm pulling more comps. I'm sending it there to see if we can get that value adjusted. In the meantime, what I suggest we do is we counter back or let the buyers know that they're gonna have to make up the difference, and we'll see how they react to that. So, just start processing that, wrap your mind around it, know I'm working on a couple of things to see what options we do have and what potential solutions we have. Once I get some responses to those, I'll call you back again and let you know, how it's turning out. Right? Is she gonna be thrilled to get that news?
No.
No, but is her confidence level still pretty decent? Like, okay, hey, I know that sucks. Actually, I had already probably done a good job letting her know that that's something that could happen. Okay, so she's not completely caught off guard by this. And now she understands, okay, I get it. It is what it is. Zach's working some stuff. I know he's trying to find a solution. We'll touch base and see how it shakes out after that. Right? I've had to make those phone calls before. They're like the worst phone calls ever. Wouldn't do the listing agent. When you're the buyer's agent, sometimes you're like, woo, didn't appraise. Looks like we're saving $5,000, right? Except in this market, because now they'll say, oh, well, that's too bad. We're going to go back to option number 2 then. So what buyers are making up the difference a lot in this market when it comes to the appraisal. But when you have bad news, call them.
Have you seen that in appraisal clauses here yet, that the house will appraise up to the listing price?
Up to the sale price.
Okay.
Up to the sale price.
Other places, you're starting to see up to listing.
Well, why we have up to sale price is because that the sale price oftentimes is greater than the list price.
Right, well, that's why they're doing it in other markets, like in LA, you see up to listing price, so, yo, man, this house is worth $600,000. If you wanna offer $800,000, that's fine.
Yeah.
But like, that's on you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And that's what they're starting to do.
What we'll
Other
do
places.
to be competitive is say, hey, here's the deal. I know it's listed at $250. We'll pay you $260. And if there's an appraisal issue, we'll make up the difference up to the $260.
Okay.
Right? And if it goes below the sale price, we're not gonna make any of that up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's something like 3 years ago. I'm like, that is nuts. Nowadays, I'm like, hey, dude, that's what it takes.
Isn't it funny how that just like
Yeah.
a light switch, it just changes?
It's reacting to the market, right? And coaching people for the specific market. Everybody, it gets to the point where when you're talking to somebody, even if they bought 5 years ago, great, the market is different. You have to do different things. There's different expectations now regarding closing costs and the timeline and financing. I mean, just about every deal we're doing nowadays is either conventional or cash. You might find a VA or an FHA every once in a while. And that stuff, FHA used to be like 50% or more. Now, you can't even go that route because people won't even look at you because they know, well, if you're FHA, you may or may not have an appraisal issue. So we're going to go conventional. And conventional has changed because you can do as little as how much down now?
5%.
As little as 3%.
3%, yeah.
As little as 3%. That's nuts. I love it, but it's nuts. Right? What are some other things that you think you want to be? So let's think about a transaction from start to finish, right? So let's say that I took the listing. I did all the stuff leading up to the listing. I took the listing on this day, and here's a period between taking the listing and it actually closes. What are the key events that need to take place? Yep, maybe I staged prior to listing it, did photos, got a sign out there, put a lockbox on,
Good pictures.
pictures. I've got it ready, it's going MLS, and being advertised everywhere I can the day it goes listed, right? Maybe I even did some pre-listing announcements and networking with other agents in my database. Okay, now we're listed. Okay, maybe I'll do an open house. Okay, so now let's say I'm gonna get an offer. Now, what other things now begin to trigger, right? Get an offer, we negotiate, it's accepted. Now what has to happen?
If they want.
Maybe.
Yep.
Maybe.
Schedule an
That's
inspection.
changing too right now.
Yep. What else?
Maybe appraisal.
Maybe. Have to have an appraisal. What else?
Yeah, financing. Oh, no, you're listed.
No, that's good. No, yeah, well, everything has to happen, right?
Right.
At some point, okay,
Financing.
once I get the appraisal, then usually not too long after that, I can finally get my commitment letter. buyer, right? Okay, we had our inspection, we negotiated everything as a result of the inspection, we had our appraisal, we have our commitment letter, what else still has to happen?
Well, we have to set a closing date.
Yep, we've got our date in mind.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, while some of this is going on, we're coordinating with the lender and title, right? That's gonna be like continuous up to the day of closing. What else has to happen? There has to be a final walkthrough at some point.
Right.
At some point, maybe utilities are gonna have to start getting coordinated, depending on whether or not you're gonna be involved in that as an agent. Usually we just point people in the right direction if they have any questions. Anything else?
Well, that constant conversation to make sure all of these things are in play.
Well, Susan, quit getting ahead of me, darn it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's what I'm getting at, right? Oftentimes what happens is an offer gets accepted and listing agents stop talking to their people, when in reality, we've got a whole host of stuff that's still going on that needs to be communicated about.
So when I bought my condo over a year ago, my agent, when I signed, she said, well, I won't talk to you again until the closing.
What?
She
Wow.
did.
That's kind of scary. I mean, you're.
Well, here's the deal. Number one, I give her props for managing expectations.
She did.
Right? Right? But here's the deal, on your weekly check-ins, things happen, things change, people have questions. And was there any point in time where you ever kind of thought to yourself, what the heck's going on?
Yep, and I called her.
Yeah, great. Well, that's good at least.
Right.
Did she seem annoyed when you called her?
No.
Okay, that's good, right? But here's the deal. One of the policies I have with my team is our clients, obviously this happens on occasion, but I always say this, our clients should never have to pick up the phone and call us to get an answer to a question, because what we should have done is already answered their question at some point before that even arose, right? If we're doing a really phenomenal job, we're always saying, oh, and by the way, here's what's gonna happen next. Or, hey, while we're on the phone together, do you have any questions? Are you wondering about anything, right?
On that timeline, don't we want to also get to the point where we're, talking to them about asking the question of when they're planning on being out?
Yeah, absolutely. That's gonna be part of your weekly conversations, right? Because at some point on this timeline is move out, right? Hopefully / clean, right? That's a whole nother expectations conversation, right? Some people think that all they need to do is get out and be gone. Most of the time that works, but sometimes you can do yourself a favor if you do a little bit of cleaning. And when I talk about the buyer consultation, that's an expectation or a talking point to have in that consultation, because I got burned once by some sellers, and I had some buyers that were upset with the condition of the home when they moved into it. I thought to myself, well, I got to safeguard against that moving forward. Now I have a specific conversation built into my dialogue or into my consultation to do that. So you call, and sometimes these weekly calls are to shepherd them through this process. Hey, because I've helped some single guys before. I mean, it's a miracle just to get them out of the house for time of closing, right? Hey, have you made calls to the utility company to shut them down? Well, no, I don't even know how to do that. Don't worry about it. Kelly will take care of that for you, right? Do you have a plan to be moved out by the time of closing? All this fun stuff, right? Hey, could you do me a favor? Either bring all the garage door openers and keys to closing, or leave them in the house, right? You're closing all the loops. We're giving checklists and stuff to people during this process. That's what our system looks like. But in all these weekly conversations, you're touching on these points, answering questions, letting them know what's going to happen in the future, what they can expect, and you're heading off or mitigating any potential issues before they even have a chance to come up, right? It's a whole purpose of this. And also, it gives you a chance to weekly, at a minimum, call in, check in with people, see how they're doing, and potentially have a referral conversation, right? Not saying that you need to throw a referral script out there, but they might say, hey, by the way, I'm glad you called. I just talked to so-and-so at work, and they're thinking about buying or selling a house. Awesome. I'd love to get in touch with them, right?
Yeah, it's like we work so hard to get this far with someone that we, marketed to, that we should really just massage that whole relationship.
Yeah, which gets back to Debbie's experience. I think if her agent could have been, in constant communication, at least on a weekly basis, every so often asking, so Debbie, while we're on the phone, have you come across anybody else that I could help? Is that a super easy question?
Mm-hmm. Well, especially if you did a very good job,
Right.
that.
And that's when you want to ask it, Susan, when they're thrilled.
Yes.
Right?
I always asked at the end before the closing, that's where I got my letters from my clients. They would bring it to the closing. Because if you don't get it at the closing or around that time, they get busy when they're moving in and stuff, and it's hard to get a letter.
Well, they
later.
know they know they're likely not gonna see
But
you again.
I was gonna say, typically, you got the line going this way for the close. I think the line needs to be extended out a little ways, because typically I like to call within a week after they've moved into the house, let them get settled in a little bit
Oh, yeah.
and ask how they're doing and if there's any questions or,
This line is infinite.
yeah, it is.
I don't have
but-
enough room for it on the board. That's called your post-closing marketing database system, all that fun stuff. You're exactly right. We have to remember that it doesn't end here unless you move to North Korea or something. I'm probably not gonna call you anymore, right? But this post-closing stuff is just as crucial. But it's important as a listing agent, you have to be calling at least weekly. After closing, who knows what that looks like for you. Okay, 22, communication checklist. If you want to get super detailed about it, you kind of go through this checklist and make notes of their preferences and how you prefer I communicate with you, how often. Keep in mind matching their style. If I've got somebody who is that's like a chatty Cathy, and I know that when I call, they're going to think it's rude if I don't spend at least 3 to 4, maybe 5 minutes chatting with them. I need to keep that in mind. I also need to keep in mind if I call and I have the intent to chat to 3 to 5 minutes, if it will annoy that person, right? Hey Zach, how you doing? Just calling to let you know that everything looks good with the listing, or everything's moving in the right direction. Sounds good. Hey, I appreciate the update. Bye. Right? Some people, that's all they want. If anything, a lot of people will just let you go to voicemail because they know you're just calling to give an update. Versus the other person who's going to want to call and have a little bit of a conversation with you, right? So kind of know who you're calling and match their personality styles. Be prompt, always respond as soon as possible. The biggest tip I can give you on this, which will still also allow you to have a decent personal life, is if somebody's messaging you or they send you something at 8, 9 o'clock at night, and sometimes you just wouldn't respond, but okay, we think to ourselves, okay, I'll just get to it tomorrow, right? But some people, man, they want to know that you at least got it or something. So just message them back, say, hey, received it. I'll be in touch first thing tomorrow. That's huge. That'll save you such a big headache with some people. And they appreciate it. Hey, great. You acknowledged it. We'll be in touch tomorrow. That's all they're looking for. Never talk down. You think that's self-explanatory, but sometimes I think that we don't even realize that maybe we're doing it, or it might be coming off that way. You might want to keep notes about the conversations that you're having. That's why email is awesome, because it catalogs everything for you. You always want to kind of work people toward making a decision or giving them some options so they can make a decision. Then always come with a great attitude. It sounds self-explanatory, but page 23, customer experience. Customers do business with you because of your service and the perceived value they get from it. They want to do business with people that help them feel comfortable with making one of the biggest decisions in their life. Excellent customer experience will set you apart. Debbie. What was your overall what was the name of your agent? Just her first name.
Lisa.
What was your overall take on Lisa by the time everything was said and done?
She was okay.
Okay, awesome. Do you think if you do an okay, first off, can an okay agent get the job done?
Mhm.
Yes. Absolutely. Do you think an okay agent is going to develop raving fans that go out of their way to do repeat or send referrals to have their clients do that? Right? Would you have overwhelmingly referred her if you were still living down there to people?
No.
Yeah, and why not?
Because she didn't do a great job.
Okay, well now we got real. At first you said she did okay, right? But for some people, okay means
Mediocre.
not a great job. They did okay. They got it done, right? Now on the flip side, if she provided you with really great customer service, would you have any qualms about referring her to people?
No.
Now let me ask you this. What things would she have had to have done differently to go from okay to pretty exceptional, I'd refer?
Well, knowing what I know now, that weekly phone call would have been great.
Mhm. So let me answer that question for you. Not much.
Great.
She didn't have to do much different other than call you once a week, maybe. That takes you from not so good / okay to fairly exceptional. I would highly refer this person, right? Because of communication. Thank you for that real life example.
Oh, you're welcome.
Because that, you have to keep that in mind. It does not take much to separate you. It does not take much to separate your level of customer service from the average agent who's just okay. What it usually takes is just a little added degree of communication, a weekly phone call. Oh, by the way, it's the same with your buyers. Now, usually you're going to see them often because you're out taking them on showings and stuff, but if you've got pauses in between, call them up just to check in, right? I'm going to remember that, Debbie. I like that. It doesn't take much to move from just okay to pretty exceptional customer service. Generally, it's about a weekly phone call. Is there anything else you could have done?
No.
Awesome.
How was she at the closing?
Did she
was
come?
fine.
Did
Yes,
she come to
was.
closing?
She did.
Was she on time?
She was.
Here's the deal, and in many parts of the country, agents don't go to closing. It's not an expectation. They don't do it, which is fine. I mean, going to closing is great because it's another opportunity to be with your client and, you know, have great conversations, leave with lasting impact, give a closing gift, whatever. In most areas of the country too, which is different from here, very rarely do the buyers and sellers come together in the same room for closing. I don't like it most oftentimes. Usually it's awkward. And what I really don't like is usually somebody says something that they shouldn't. And I'm just like, why would you say that? Like, oh, by the way, you gotta watch out for that neighbor down the road. What are you doing right now? Zip it. So just the added customer service will set you apart, and that's why people will refer you. Cool. Always under promise and over deliver. I love living by that saying in life in general, not just in real estate. Always under promise and over deliver, because if you do that, what happens? What are people's reaction?
Going above and beyond.
Extremely pleasant, right? Oh wow, you told me that we were probably gonna, you know, maybe sell in 3 months for 200, and we sold within just a couple weeks for 210. How do you think they feel about you? Pretty phenomenal, right? So don't make grandiose promises just to sell somebody on you and get the deal. Because if you don't live up to it, you don't meet the expectations that you set there. Even if you get the job done, they're still not going to be thrilled about it, right? This idea should be the hallmark of your business. Here are some examples. If you say you will communicate once a week, communicate twice a week, or until your sellers ask you to scale it down. Say your staging expert will be in touch with the sellers that week, and then make sure the stager calls them the next day. Right? That's just good customer service stuff. That's really out of this. You'll see it's kind of interesting, and I would love to have the time someday to do a little bit of a case study and go around and ask individual realtors how they handle certain aspects of their business. For one example, some agents and teams will schedule the inspection for their clients, and others they don't even touch it. You know, it's just like, hey, find your inspector, schedule them, whatever, right? It's just two different ways that they run their business. I'm always curious to see, you know, what are some agents doing for their people that other agents are not doing? What's reasoning behind it? And then I ask myself, from a consumer standpoint, which one do they probably prefer, right?
My nephew is a realtor in Minneapolis, Fulton Realty.
Okay.
And he said what they do when they are working with the buyer, they're really serious, they're going to put an offer in on property, they have the inspector with them.
Mm-hmm.
Before they write the offer, go through the house with them so that it eliminates that inspection period. So they go in with their offer that it's already inspected.
To make it more competitive.
Yeah.
It's basically saying, hey, here, this is the property, we want to get you in there, take a look at it, let us know right off the bat if it's something we need to be concerned about, or if we can make that offer non-contingent. Yeah, absolutely. That would be, and here's what happens, and I've experienced this in both a bad and a good way before. You know, Brad, you got friends out there?
Yep.
Right?
You
like to think so. Well, you might be buying a house as a general consumer around the same time your friend is, right? You guys might even happen to put offers in on different houses around the same time. You don't get it. Your friend does. You're talking to your friend like, oh man, I can't believe that. And the friend goes, well, yeah, our agent got us in with an inspector beforehand so we can make our offer non-contingent. And you go,
Wow, wish my agent would have done that.
you go, what in the, I didn't even know that was possible. So now, Brad, how do you feel about your agent?
Not as good as the other agent the other guy had.
Absolutely. Seriously, that's what happens, right? And so knowing all the options or the different things you can do with clients or prepping them and helping them as much as possible safeguards you from stuff like that too. Because if you'd have the same thing, oh, well, yeah, our agent told us about that, but we just weren't comfortable doing it. Or, yeah, we tried the same thing, just didn't work, blah, blah, blah. Because people will talk. Or sometimes parents, siblings, friends, they will just chime in and say, well, did you guys do an escalation clause? What's that? Or did you guys make it contingent upon this? Or what do you mean? How do you know that was an option? Then all of a sudden you get an angry phone call. Well, Zach, I think we could have got the house if you talked to us about doing this, this, or this. And this is what usually happens. Well, we did talk about that. And you told me you didn't want to do it, right? So I had an example last year where these people wanted to sell their home, and they said, well, we don't want to list our home for sale until we find the house we want to buy. Is that a winning strategy in this market?
No.
Not really, because what does that mean your offer is going to be?
Conventional and sell your house.
Which is that attractive?
Never.
Not at all, especially when there's competitive offers and none of the other ones are continued, right? So they said, we want to make offers or find the next house, but we don't want to put ours on the market until we do. We said, okay, here's the deal. It's going to make you very unattractive, right? But if that's what not physically when it comes to your offer, right? But if that's what you want to do, that's the route we'll go. If that's what makes you safe. And we had the understanding that they would probably learn fairly quickly through the results they were getting and the conversations we'd have that they probably, should get their home on the market for sale. And so they struck out on one or two, and they wanted to come back and say, well, why didn't we put our house on the market then first if it's going to make it more attractive? I don't let people get away with stuff nowadays. Like, well, let me stop you right there. If you remember, in our very first meeting, we did have that conversation. And you chose not to do that because you weren't comfortable with it. Now, I'm not playing the blame game or saying you were wrong or dumb for not doing that. I'm not saying this part. So what I'm hearing you say now is that maybe you've changed your mind about that, and that is a route you'd like to take. So if you'd like to go with the route that we originally recommended, we're of course on board with that, and we'll help you do it. Right? It depends on how fired up I am or how annoyed I might be. But it's like people are so quick to forget when they want to start pointing the finger and get angry about stuff. Yes, sir.
So coming out of tech, we used to run into that
Fairly often.
all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. And one of the things we would do constantly is send summary emails to people.
Great idea.
So after you meet with them and they go, yeah, no, we're gonna find the house first and then we'll sell our house. Afterwards you just send them a email. Hey, it was great to meet with you today. It's my understanding that this is what you want. This is what we're looking for, and this is your time frame. Great. Here's our next step. We'll talk to you then.
Absolutely. And if we're not finding the results you're looking for quickly, here are a couple of options we might want to consider.
Yeah.
Right. Like we talked about.
Right.
That's a great idea. Absolutely.
And so,
And
just
then-
in case they ever come back 3 months later and go, you never told me about that. You go, well,
All you
so
do
we
is
had that discussion.
you forward the email and you put ... Just kidding.
We had that discussion. Here's the email. It was my understanding at the time. Maybe I misunderstood, but because I misunderstood at that time or whatever happened at that time,
Absolutely.
that's how we proceeded.
Well, and that usually de-escalates it, and then you get some sort of sheepish apology. Hey, you're right. Now that you mention it, I do recall having that conversation, and we did talk about that. Yep, let's do that moving forward, right? So just keep that in mind. Always give people all their options, even if you don't think they're going to take you up on the option, or you wouldn't recommend it. Say, hey, just so you know, these are all the options that you can do. A common one is waiving that inspection, right? Because as agents, we're kind of like, ooh, gosh, I don't want to advise you not to have an inspection. But what I tell people is this: hey, I have to make you aware of this option. I'm not necessarily recommending it, but if you like this home that much, you want to be extra competitive, it's an option you can consider. That way they can't come back to me later and say, why didn't you ever tell me that was an option? Right? Be solutions oriented. I kind of talked about this earlier. Hone your problem resolution skills. Make it a habit never to communicate with a client about a problem without having one or more solutions to recommend. Your clients are looking you to be the expert, to have the answers, and to be their leader throughout the process. used to have a, in the Army, one of our sergeants would always say, if you're gonna come to me with a problem, come with a solution as well. Don't just come to me and tell me what the problem is. What are you gonna do about it, right? So it's the same thing with this. If you're coming and you're giving some bad news or you're gonna talk about an issue with them, say, hey, here's the issue, but we can do this, this, or this. Developing resources like that of a stager, you know, with a little practice, what it says is you can find that you'll be able to give probably enough decent advice on your own, unless you have to kick it up a notch, maybe hire or bring somebody else in. But you build up that network just like you build up the network of lenders and title people, just reach out to them or ask around other agents, hey, who have you used to stage before? Super service, page 25. Providing a terrific customer experience is the cement that holds a great seller business together. Apparently, super happens to be a phenomenal acronym you can use with this as well. Sincerity, be honest and reliable. Understanding, focus on their needs, wants, and values. Predictability, deliver what is promised and expected when it is promised. Exceptionality, provide extraordinary and uncommon customer service. Responsiveness, respond quickly and reliably. If you kind of make that the hallmark of how you operate with sellers and buyers for that matter, you'll find that the experiences will be 10 times better and that you're going to get that repeat referral business. And really, guys, all this is designed to do is make your life easier. Like this, I know it seems like work or annoying sometimes just to call to say, hey, there's nothing new, but all it does is make your life easier. It prevents them from calling you 3 weeks into the transaction and saying, hey, I've got questions about this, this, and this. I haven't heard from you in 3 weeks. Okay. I guess I can understand your frustration a little bit. Stay in touch with your sellers using the touch campaigns and e-edge, including personal contact, to stay top of mind. So that gets back to Susan's point earlier. She talked about after closing, some of that post-close stuff. Put them on those auto email campaigns, and they're going to get newsletters from you, updates about the market, all kinds of fun stuff. At a bare minimum, if you've got them on that, it's at least just subtle reminders, holiday, greetings, things like that nature, just subtle reminders that you're in the business. Okay. What questions do you have? Thoughts? Any takeaways? None.
Oh, probably lots. Gotta wrap my mind around it first.
Let's look at page 30 and we'll wrap up for the day. What are 3 phases of your listing relationship with the seller? Once you kind of take the listing, because the pre-listing is a good one. 3 we talked about are helping to stage the property, marketing the property, and then communicating with the seller, right? How are we staging it or getting it to show its best? How are we then going to overall market the property? And then what's our communication plan with the seller moving forward? Why is staging important? I think we beat that one to death a little bit. And also the caveat I'd give you is in this market, it's maybe not 100% necessary, so keep that in mind. Honestly, I can't remember the last time I hired a stager to do any work on a home. Why is pricing number 1 on the 14-point marketing plan? It's the most important part of marketing. Yeah, it's the most important part. If the house is priced incorrectly, it doesn't matter how well it's marketed. You're wasting your money on your marketing if it's not priced right. 5 elements of super service for what again?
Sincerity,
Sincerity.
understanding.
If you flip back a page, like Susan has, you'll find it. Sincerity, understanding, predictability, exceptionality, and responsiveness. Anybody have the open houses scheduled this weekend? Awesome. How many? Just one?
Yeah, just one.
Where's it at?
Dan's construction.
Oh, perfect. That's such
It's
a
right
beautiful
on-
house.
It's right in my neighborhood.
Oh, awesome.
It's nice.
That works well for you.
Yeah, 10 to 12, and then he's 12 to
Okay, the next day?
The
Oh, the same day? Oh, awesome. It's kind of like a model you guys are keeping open. Have you held it open before?
No.
Oh,
I-
well, very good.
I viewed it, of course,
Okay.
but I haven't held it open.
Wow, I mean, with the weather the way that it is, it's probably gonna be,
Perfect day.
yeah, pretty decent turnout for you. That's awesome. Make Tim get out there and shovel ahead
I
of
was
time
gonna
first.
say, shovel off the slush.
He probably already has known
Salt
it.
on it.
Okay. Remember, keep doing your daily 10-4 at a minimum. Keep making the 10 contacts, keep adding 10 to your database, keep doing your 10 messages. If you've got time to do the 10 previews, or if you're not doing showings with people, get out, look at homes, see what they're going for on the market, all that fun stuff. Ignite's good. It's really good material, but nothing is more important than you hitting your contacts each day, because that's really what's going to push your business forward. So
What's the 4?
doing those 4 things. Yep, those 4 things, 10 of each daily.
Sometimes I rely on not personally calling people that I have in my pipeline, but
Yeah.
emailing and sending them
Sure.
listings. Is that, it's activity, but
I'm not going to say it's bad. It's better than nothing. It's good. It's not as powerful as a phone call, some might say, but I think it's personal preference. I would rather have you making contacts in some shape or form than telling you that that's not a contact. Plus, too, it's knowing, like we just talked about it in here. It's knowing how people prefer to be communicated with. Like nowadays, a lot of people don't like to be called. Kind of weird. I don't like it. I'm just kidding.
I'm meeting with 3 friends this afternoon for a happy hour just to,
There's 3
Touch
contacts.
base.
3 contacts
Yep.
right there. Make sure you ask for referrals.
and the other fun thing I just wanted to share with people, if you've ever used House of Magnets, which is where I've used them for name tags and different things. But they have a fun deal that they just, because I ordered from them before, that just, they emailed me and I did this. You can get